Electric luxury means a big car, lots of range and comfort. The Q8 tries to reach all of those three. So you're buying a Audi Q8 Sportback, but you cannot decide whether to buy a diesel or an electric model. Well, the answer is fairly simple here because, like usual, it's about range. So if you're driving on highways a lot, if you're driving long distance a lot, then the diesel is an obvious choice because you won't have any problems with charging, you won't have any problems with batteries, and so on and so forth. So that's a fairly simple choice. But if you're doing more city driving and about, I don't know, 200, 300 kilometers perhaps, then an electric car is probably a good choice. There's also another thing. If you compare this to a Tesla, for example, I would definitely say that the Germans have the upper hand as far as quality and, well, build quality is concerned. Also design. Because Tesla, I read every day how many problems people have with their cars. On the other hand, the Tesla does have the acceleration and the batteries and the range and so on, but I do believe the Germans are catching up or have perhaps already caught up with them. So this is definitely not a bad choice. If we look at this LED signature here, it's pretty cool, but then there's also something else. The Volkswagen Group nowadays is doing this entire LED strip across the entire mask, which in a lot of cases looks pretty cool, but I've noticed something here. There's also light on the badge here. Well, here in Europe, it's not allowed to have the badge actually light up because that would be an advertisement. But this LED strip is actually up here and then is reflected off the plastic, making this rather cool effect, I think. Let's look at the giants now. Not just the car, but the wheels themselves. Well, all electric cars pretty much have really big wheels because they're fairly heavy. Now this thin guy over here only weighs about 2.6 tons. So it does need pretty large wheels. Now these are 265, 21 inches. And about these alloys, you might say that the regular ones will look better, and yeah, maybe I agree, but I would really recommend getting the aero ones, which these are, because that means you'll get fairly higher range. It's been proven by now that these aerodynamic ones will improve the aerodynamics of the car as a whole. It's the same with the rear view mirrors, for example. If they replace them with cameras, the range goes up fairly considerably for an electric car. So what about charging this car? Well, because it's fairly large and heavy, it also has a pretty big battery. This one has 106 kilowatt hours of usable storage, which is actually some of the highest possible on market these days. So how did they do it? Well, they've got two charging ports actually, one on each side. You press this little button and a nice little flap opens. It looks pretty cool. It's probably because I don't have the key here. Okay, there we go. So on this side, on the passenger side, you've got a 22 kilowatt AC charging port, which is going to take quite a long time. If you plug it into a regular European plug, from 0%, it's going to take about 54 hours. But it's more interesting on the other side. So on this side, on the driver's side, you've got it pretty similar. You press this button, the flap opens, but here you've got a CCS port, which means that you can charge this with a maximum power of 170 kilowatts, which translates into 10 to 80% charge in 33 minutes. So this is definitely the port you want to use if you want to charge the car quickly. If we're talking about charging, the biggest battery has 114 kilowatt hours, of which there's 106 kilowatt hours usable capacity. That means a WLTP range of 481 to 582 kilometers. With a three-phase 11 kilowatt plug, you can charge them in just under 12 hours. Max charging with 170 kilowatts takes care of 10 to 80% in 33 minutes. let's get one thing out of the way right away. This is a good car. It should be for the price. And that's mainly because of two things. One, well, it's electric, of course, which means that it's very quiet, very refined, there's no juddering. It's nice, it's just very nice. And secondly, it has the air suspension, which means that when you're driving on a badly damaged road, right, like this one, and I know how it feels in a regular car, well, this one is, all the bumps and bruises of the road are really muted and actually quite comfortable. Yes, you will still feel some of the worst stuff, but it's very nice. There are a couple of things though. One, for example, this being a €120,000 car with all of this equipment, I know I will sound really stupid, but I would expect a little bit more luxurious feel for some reason. Everything is nice and pretty solid, but I don't know, just sort of the design I feel like could be a bit more luxurious. And there's also a few problems, like for example these infotainment displays and the climate display below it, because they're at an angle and they're nicely incorporated into the dashboard, which is lovely, but because there's a sunroof, when the sun is right above, the sun will shine into the glassy panel and right into your eyes, and it just becomes like a reflector. It's actually pretty bad. Also the display, the graphics are nice, but I don't know, there's again a really large bevel around it, and it kind of detracts from the size of the display, if that makes any sense. There's also another thing, which is the recuperation of energy. Now, with electric cars, you have recuperation, which is very important. So when you're going down a hill or you're braking, for example, the electric motor is actually producing the energy. It's a generator, and it's also slowing you down quite considerably. And usually cars will have a D mode, which is drive, and then a B mode, which is full recuperation mode. So that means if you start letting go of the gas pedal, it will start recuperating. If you let it go completely, it'll have full recuperation, the maximum amount. Not with the Audi. They've decided on D and S, so sport. But if you want to recuperate more, you have to use these flappy pedals at the steering wheel, and you can only get it down to 50%, and it doesn't remember it the next time you start the car. So if you want full recuperation, you have to actually get on the brake. I prefer the other style, the B style. It's much nicer to drive in a way, although you can of course get used to this. But generally, this is a very nice car. It's very comfortable. Well, my colleague was complaining about the seats. He said that after a little while his back started hurting, but he does have problems with his back, so I didn't have any problems. I was driving this car yesterday in some really, really bad traffic jams. I spent an hour and a half just in traffic jams, pretty much. But you know, I really liked this car because it made me calm and relaxed, because it's comfortable, because it's quiet, electric of course. I didn't feel like I was wasting fuel by being stuck in the traffic jams. So generally it is very nice. I really like the Alcantara on the doors. I wish there was more of that to make it more special inside. That would be awesome.
The Q8 Sportback E-Tron starts at €78,000. For a fully loaded model, you'll be paying €140,000.